Imagine if the LSAT changed overnight and the material that you've been studying suddenly became irrelevant. This has actually happened before. There were students who spent months mastering logic games only for LSAC to remove that section entirely. Now, another change is looming. LSAC has signaled that the writing sample, which has always been unscored, could soon become part of your total LSAT score. By taking the LSAT in 2025 and getting it out of the way before this change, you've got a unique opportunity to avoid all that chaos. Today, I'll share with you how to set yourself up for success while others are caught off guard. For those who don't know me, my name is Steve Schwartz. I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005, and I personally increased my own LSAT score from a 152 to a 175. Now today, I'm going to show you why 2025 is the year to tackle the LSAT. Law school admissions is becoming more competitive, LSAT medians are climbing, and LSAC could implement those new writing sample scoring rules soon. Today, I'll share with you exactly why you should act now and how to dominate the LSAT before things change. Now let's get into it. Law school admissions is becoming more competitive. We have a huge year-over-year increase in the number of applicants and an even bigger increase in the number of law school applications. More people than ever are taking the LSAT, and LSAT medians are climbing across the board. This is called LSAT score inflation, meaning that higher scores are becoming the norm, so you need to aim higher just to stay competitive. And finally, LSAC has hinted that the writing sample, which is currently unscored, could soon factor into your total LSAT score. Law schools are actually asking LSAC to start scoring the writing sample because they can't rely as much on application essays because a lot of applicants are using AI chatbots to help them write them. And so LSAC has indicated that at some point in the relatively near future, they will start scoring the writing sample to give law schools that kind of insight into the quality of the essays that applicants are submitting under proctored timed conditions. This would mean you actually have to study seriously for the writing sample. Now, of course, you should always give the writing sample your best effort, but because it currently isn't scored, you don't need to worry nearly as much about it. And I always recommend focusing on the more scored portions of the LSAT, not the writing sample, but of course that would have to change should this change occur. Now, let me tell you about a typical student. We'll call him Mike. Earlier this year, he spent months perfecting logic game strategies. He was ready to crush the LSAT, but then LSAC announced that logic games were being removed. Overnight, all that effort became irrelevant, and Mike had to scramble to prepare for the new format and shift focus to logical reasoning. Now imagine if something similar happens again with the writing sample. Right now, it's not scored, but if LSAC starts scoring it in the near future, students who aren't ready will find themselves in Mike's shoes, scrambling to adjust while others move ahead. If you can knock out the LSAT in 2025 before the change, that lets you avoid all the uncertainty and lets you focus on nailing the test as it stands right now. So if you conquered the LSAT in 2025, you are guaranteed to avoid the scored writing sample and save yourself all the extra stress and preparation associated. You can also secure your LSAT score now and your application now before medians climb even higher, and that's going to give you a more competitive edge, and you'll be able to stand out in that growing pool of applicants while others still procrastinate. So here's your step-by-step roadmap to success with this approach. So step 1, lock in your test date, commit to taking the LSAT in 2025. This puts you ahead of potential changes and ensures you're ready to apply early in the cycle. The scheduled test dates already are January, February, April, and June. LSAC has committed that none of these test dates will feature a scored writing sample, but test dates beyond that might. Of course, step 2 now, focus on the scored portions of the LSAT, logical reasoning and reading comp. Those are the sections that matter the most today, because right now the writing sample isn't scored yet. Step 3, build a consistent study plan because consistency will always beat cramming. Create a schedule, track your progress, and stick to it. And by the way, at LSAT Unplugged, we create personalized day-by-day study plans for all of our students. We pair it with private one-on-one coaching on a consistent weekly basis. If you'd like to find out more about getting our support on your journey to scoring a 170 plus, you can check out the links below to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. Step 4, practice under test day conditions. You want to simulate real test conditions to build endurance and your confidence. We recommend taking at least 10 full-length timed exams before test day so that test day itself will feel like just another run-through. Step 5, stay informed. Keep following my videos on the LSAT Unplugged YouTube channel. Listen to the LSAT Unplugged podcast so you're aware of any upcoming changes. Of course, I will announce when LSAC does shift to scoring the writing sample. Haven't heard anything yet. When I do, you'll be the first to know. And finally, step 6, if self-study just isn't cutting it for you, get support from an expert, someone who's been through the process and knows what they're doing. At LSAT Unplugged, we offer live online classes via Zoom, on-demand video courses, small group coaching, and one-on-one coaching. Again, check out the links below to book a call. We'd be glad to help you out. Now, if you don't take the LSAT in 2025, if you don't take it until after they're scoring the writing sample, that's going to add more pressure and preparation time, in addition to studying the reading comp and the logical reasoning. Additionally, as LSAT medians increase, it's going to become harder and harder to stand out with an average score. If you take the LSAT now and apply sooner rather than later, you can avoid the increased competition. And finally, then this is especially for those taking the LSAT in April or June, applying at the beginning of next cycle, that allows you to apply earlier in the cycle. All else being equal, better to apply earlier than later if you can. And so if you can plan ahead, lock down your LSAT score now without the score writing sample, apply at the beginning of the cycle in the fall, that's the best thing you can possibly do. However, of course, the January LSAT and the February LSAT are not too late for those taking it this cycle, and it is better to apply later with a higher score than earlier with a lower score. So again, think about all those students. I spoke with many of them. They spent months preparing for logic games, studying that section, struggling with it, ultimately succeeding at it, and all that work was for nothing. They wasted their efforts because the section was removed entirely after the June test. The students who got done with the LSAT in April and June of last year, 2024, they managed to get the benefit of all the work they had put in. The writing sample could, of course, follow the same trajectory. If LSAC starts scoring it later this year in 2025, the same thing could happen in the near future, potentially even after the June LSAT in 2025. If LSAC does start scoring it after the June test, those who delay their LSAT will have to adapt to an entirely new additional challenge. We don't want that to happen to you. So if you conquer the LSAT earlier rather than later, ideally by June of 2025, you get ahead of the changes and lock in a more competitive score without having to deal with the writing sample. If you can get a higher score and focus your efforts just on logical reasoning and reading comp, that's going to lead you to get a higher score because you can narrow your focus, and that's going to get you better scholarship money, admission to better law schools. And so if you'd like my help getting ahead of the changes, locking in your LSAT score sooner rather than later, if you want to lock it up in January, February, April, or June of 2025, my team and I would be glad to help you out on your journey to scoring a 170 plus. You can check out the links below to book a call with me and my team. And in the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.